Hi, this is Laurie Latmore, and Laurie would like to welcome you to the exhibition tonight. And I'm really interested to find out more about your work, your inspiration, your use of color, and maybe you could explain a bit more about how you do all of that and what inspires you to create things.
Well, I think with my paintings, I'm inspired by my husband, David Latmore, for one thing. So a lot of the techniques and the colors that I'm using and the paints I'm using, I'm sort of picking up those techniques from him. I'm inspired by flowers because I think that they're a really beautiful part of creation, and I think even though they're very small, they kind of for me symbolize just the stars and the larger creation. And it doesn't really matter whether it's something very small or very big. It's just all part of what the universe is made of, and if you believe in a higher power, what the higher power kind of brings into the universe, or and then being painting, you're allowed to be part of that because you get to create too. So it's about that. It's about light in the darkness for one thing. When I paint, a lot of that is trying to sort of show that light in the darkness, and I think finding comfort in looking at stars at night is another thing. There's quite a few things that are kind of going through my mind when I'm painting these kind of night flowers and night gardens. With this one, I'm kind of thinking of all the kind of biochemical elements and forces in the universe kind of coming in and sort of bursting out and making stars or making flowers. So those are some of the things that are going on.
Well, that's pretty amazing. So you're not just splashing paint on a canvas.
But there's
I didn't realize there's so much depth to your work there. I'm so inspired.
But a lot of it is, there is that fun part of also just pushing paint around.
Fantastic.
There's definitely that.
Well, I love the way you're integrating color and just the confidence, the new confidence that you're showing in your work, which I think is
Thank you. I think it just
tremendous.
comes from doing it. The more you do it, that's just the more you do it, the more you get comfortable with the materials, and you can just experiment a bit.
Does it make you feel happy to do these paintings?
Yes, it does. It's sometimes when I'm first painting, it feels wonderful. It feels because when you start slapping color on and you sort of feel uninhibited, and that's the really fun part. And then you get to the middle part where you think, oh my God, there's now what am I going to do? And maybe it's not quite as you first intended. And so then it's trying to sort it out, and you're looking and you think, okay, where do you want light, and where do you want shadow, and what do you want to cover up, and what do you want to remain there? And so there's all that sort of struggle in the middle of it. But then at the end, if I'm, when I finish it, then usually there is a certain amount of happiness if if I'm pleased that it sort of is saying something that I wanted to say. So,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. That's tremendous. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So this is David Latmore, who does the amazing landscapes that we often see at the Images shows here. And David, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about your work, what inspires you, and what keeps you doing what you're doing.
That's a good question. Yeah. What keeps me doing, first of all, is compulsion. There's no rational reason. I just can't stop doing it. Basically, it's a sort of a little dysfunctional, maybe. The inspiration behind comes from childhood memories of woodlands where I used to wander a lot on my own. And I was always fascinated by the light. So this whole series of about 40 paintings is called Woodland Light. So it's exploring the different relationships between the color, the saturation, the warm, the cool, the masses, the lines that connect them all, but without actually drawing anything. You won't see me drawing any leaves or tree trunks. They're basically forms that intuitively, that you recognize, but there isn't anything descriptive there. There's no narrative. These are all abstract lines. So they're designed to kind of go straight into your subconscious. So you're not saying, this is a wood. You're just saying these abstract forms which seem to go straight in you, if it's possible. And in that way, they hit a deeper, a kind of a deeper point inside you.
So you're really evoking memory and using that as your inspiration.
This symbol and imagery and the whole thing is supposed to be a sense of light that kind of comes through, and it's a portal and it pulls you in. The forms themselves were developed from studying fractals, geometry, and morphogenesis, chaos theory, where you have these forms are the same everywhere. This is a logarithmic spiral in here, and the same form is repeated throughout here in all the smaller things. So you can take a really close-up photograph in there, and it will reflect the whole thing. So that's where the fractal geometry comes into.
No, I never really knew that before.
We never asked me.
I did not. That's true. I did not know that.
So it's a movement of the brush, and what happens there's this chaos theory which is that a simple formula, mathematically it's programmed into the whole structure of the universe, where you can have a simple mathematical formula, and it's not like a clockwork universe. Things happen, it evolves into an infinite amount of different forms,
right,
all from the same simple form. Things just expand, and that's where the naturalism and the morphogenesis comes from. So I tend to, these are not composed really in an abstract way. They're kind of begun, and I let them evolve as they want to, by keeping that same movement going, and watching the relationships form between the colors and the values and color temperature, and keeping a close eye on it.
Fantastic.
And they're also done in transparent color, which means they have to be done once. You can't. It's like watercolor. It's watercolor technique. So I'm not using opaque color at all on these. It's basically a watercolor which is done in oil. So you can't mush them around. Once they're down there, you've got to leave them. So it may take a dozen times to get the whole canvas right. And if it doesn't work out, you have to take the whole thing off, prepare the surface again, and then go back in. So it's not like a stand back, circumspect kind of a dab. It takes a lot of energy, and you kind of throw yourself into it and hope that something comes out the other end.
Well, you get a lot of success, David, and I think whatever you're doing, you've got to keep doing it because it's working for you. And,
okay, I will.
I really appreciate you explaining that, because I had no idea of the depth of interpretation that you were going to explain there in terms of how you construct your work, and I think it throws a whole new light on it.
Oh, really? Well, that's interesting. Well, it's quite often to explain this so many times that I tend to, I suppose, not really. I just kind of, what I say is, well, I just throw paint at it and then see what happens, because it's easier to say.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to try and kind of explain things a little more. That's what I've been told.
Well, you definitely educated me, and I'm sure you've educated everybody else who's going to watch this video.
Well, that's great.
Yeah. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thank you.